Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of DCT's Icing on the Career Cake. Hi, Diane. How are you this week?
I'm all right. It was a bit of a challenging week, but okay, surviving.
I think it is challenging for a lot of people out there. Do you know what? I feel like people need to know more about happiness. That would help them, right?
It would, yeah.
We've had a difficult start to 2026, I think, for a lot of people. We need to get more happy. So let's bring in our expert on happiness today. Who is it, Diane?
So today we've got Jo Robinson-Howarth, and her business is called the Happiness Club. So she's going to talk to us about how everything is related to happiness and what happiness actually is.
That's brilliant. Here we go. Here's Jo. Hello, Jo.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm happy. There we are.
Good. Great.
That's a good start, isn't it? Now, Jo, the first question we ask everybody on this show is, what kind of icing are you?
Okay, so my instinctive answer to that question is I am butter icing.
Ooh.
What's that?
It's my absolute favorite kind of icing, and there's a lot of it. It's soft and smooth and yummy. So that's me.
It actually keeps like what would be quite a dry cake happy, doesn't
Exactly.
it? Yeah. There we go. How did you get into happiness?
Because I was ridiculously unhappy, I guess. So on my own journey of trying to be happier, which I've discovered is a lifelong journey, it ended up with me teaching other people how to do it too.
Right. So do you think that's the same for all of us? Do you think we almost have to recognize our unhappiness in order to be happy?
Oh, well, I think it's all part and parcel of happiness. I think that the true happiness is really understanding that life is all of it. That there is happiness in the unhappiness, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Without one, you can't have the other. They don't exist without each other. So without sadness, there is no joy. Without unhappiness, there is no happiness. Without pain, there is no healing. Without calm, there is no stress, and vice versa. So they're opposite ends of the same pole. Yep. So we have to experience all of it. But we struggle with experiencing the bits we don't want to experience, obviously.
Mm. Do you think there are different kinds of happiness or perspectives on happiness depending upon what kind of character type we are? Because like some people, I would say, are quite selfish.
Yeah.
And look at the world from just their perspective. And as long as they're okay, then they're happy. And then other people are quite altruistic, but other people look out at other people and go, well, as long as my family are happy and my kids happy and my wife's happy, then I'm happy.
Yeah. And I think it's all to do with your own experiences of life, largely in younger years, in terms of what you believe brings happiness into your existence. So even those people who get happiness from being altruistic are on one level or another selfish, because sometimes they're doing it to make themselves happy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also I have slightly, one of my bugbears is that being selfish is bad, is a negative thing to be. I'm not condoning people being horrible to other people, but I absolutely talk to my clients and people that I know about the idea that this is your life, right? This is your life, nobody else's life. So if you aren't putting yourself first in your own life, prioritizing your own needs, your own desires in your own life, then you're not truly living your life. And a lot of people try and live their lives for other people. rather than for themselves. And actually, for my money, with the people that I work with, that way lies unhappiness. Because actually what you find is that you put yourself second, third, fourth, fifth, last in your own life. And that leads to frustration, resentment, all manner of things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being selfish in the true meaning of the word, which is selfish, of the self.
Yeah.
It's your life. So prioritize yourself. And when you start prioritizing yourself in your own life, when you start looking after yourself properly and prioritizing your own health, your own well-being, your own decisions, your own choices, your own priorities, actually what that does is make you better able and more able to genuinely help other people. So it looks like it's a contradiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But actually it isn't. One leads into the other. So like I say, I'm not condoning, someone who genuinely is sitting there going, I don't give a what's it about anybody else, my way, the highway, this is all that matters. For me, that person isn't happy anyway. For me, that person is protecting themselves deeply from being hurt in some way. That's an utter generalization, but that would be my take on that kind of attitude.
So I'm getting from that until you actually get to know somebody quite well and understand who they are as a person, you can't really measure where they are with their happiness. Yeah. We live in a world now, though, where because everybody's online all of the time on all of these different platforms, etc., everybody's kind of framing everybody else's happiness and has an opinion on everybody else's life and how it should be, etc. How does that impact people, do you think, from your perspective?
You mean when they see other people on social media and want to be more?
Well, either they see other people on social media and think, well, I want to be a bit more like that, even though some of those people are probably lying about what's actually going on in their life, etc. Or people talk about, being happy in an area, or that I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then people wade in and go, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing that, or you should, everybody's got an opinion on everybody else these days.
Yeah, because as human beings, we're wired to judge everything, right? Judgment is one of the greatest things that we have as human beings. We judge absolutely everything. And again, it's a protection mechanism, right? We have to judge things to make sure that we're safe. And in some cases, it's safer to project our fears and anxieties out onto other people rather than to actually look at ourselves and go, okay, so why is that thing from that other person? Why is that bothering me? Why do I care? Why does it matter? Rather than ask ourselves those questions, we just pile onto the other person and go, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You can't be doing that. Every single person has their own unique set of subconscious filters through which they perceive life, and everybody's filters are completely unique to that person. So two people can experience the exact same, in inverted commas, experience and have completely different experiences of it, because it's all done through our own perception, our own filters. So, I spoke on a panel recently, and there was a lady there, brilliant woman running a brilliant business, but she talked about how she gets an unbelievable amount of online abuse on her social media. She runs like a PT app, like a personal training app, and she talked about the amount of abuse she gets from men and women on her posts on social media. And her attitude to it was, that's a them problem. It doesn't bother me at all, doesn't faze me, because that's a them problem. It's got what they write is absolutely nothing to do with me. And that's what I'm talking about, right? She absolutely realizes that those people are seeing her through their own filter, their own beliefs, their own perceptions. And it says absolutely bob all about her and what she's doing and what she's trying to achieve. But a lot of people don't have that level of awareness. And so as soon as we see something we disagree with, we pile in on it, which is a completely human thing to do, right? It's not, it's a one of the things I talk about a lot is is judgment, and maybe we could dial the judgment down a bit, but actually asking human beings to get to a place where there's no judgment whatsoever, I'm not sure that's possible, Graham.
No.
No.
Do you know what? I saw Harry Styles talking about this the other day.
Right.
Good old Harry Styles.
Good.
But no, he said, I've been given a bit of advice quite early on in my career, and he's stuck to it, which is, he said, don't look at 95% of what's written about you. He said, because when people write really, really bad stuff about you, that's not right. That's not accurate. Okay. Because they don't really know. But he said, but neither do I believe the stuff where people are blowing smoke at me, and saying I'm this brilliant. He said, that's not right either. Kind of where most people sit is in the middle of all of that. So yeah. I actually thought that was quite good advice that someone had given him.
I just think happiness is individual, isn't it? Everything is for you. It's your own unique way of looking at things. So just because that makes someone happy and it doesn't you, then that's their choice, their life. It doesn't really matter. I wouldn't even go commenting on things, whether he agrees or disagrees. I don't understand why loads of people get themselves into arguments on social media about stuff, we're in the same WhatsApp group, aren't we, Jo? And there's been like a guy today, yesterday, whatever, they imitating Mark, and it's like, what's it got to do with that guy? What Mark wants to do and how he wants to run his business? If you don't like it, it's not for you, then just don't be a part of it.
Exactly, and that's the easy way, isn't it? And it's the thing of, and I learned this very early on when I was first in therapy a million years ago. But we have, as human beings, a lot of us have this need to be right. And so when we feel like our rightness is threatened, then we'll defend it, we respond, we attack, right? And one of the very first questions that my therapist asked me when I was 25 in therapy first time, and he said, I was describing this situation with my mum because she used to drive me absolutely crazy, and I was describing this situation, and he stopped me and he said, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. And he said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I was like, I'm sorry, you're supposed to be on my side. What? But until he asked me that question, I was like, well, aren't they the same thing? He was like, no, they're not. Being right doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy. Actually, if you're defending your rightness to that degree, you're probably incredibly not happy.
Yeah.
Is this becoming more difficult in a world where we're understanding things like neurodivergence more as well? Because like they're now given more reasons, if you like, why people act in a certain way, right? So, I've got RSD, so therefore I'm going to actually, if you say this, that's going to make me feel rejected. I'm going to be sensitive about this. I'm going to respond.
Yeah. And I think it's always, if you're a decent human being, it's always about treating other people with consideration and kindness. Kindness is an enormous part of happiness. But at the same time, understanding that you, and my children roll their eyes at me when I do this, but because they're teenagers and I'm not cool, obviously. But you are not responsible for anybody else's feelings. You are only responsible for your own. So yes, if you've got RSD, I can absolutely treat you with more consideration and kindness. But how you take what I say or do, again, has nothing to do with me and everything to do with you. And I can be considerate of that, but it isn't my responsibility. It isn't anyone else's responsibility to you can't make someone, you know, the way that something I say affects someone else is because they are receiving what I've said through those filters, whatever those filters might be, whether it's RSD, neurodivergent, trauma, whatever those filters might be, they're receiving what I do or say through those filters, and I can't control that. So yes, I can be kind and considerate and compassionate, and I am. I'm butter icing after all, but I can't control how someone else is going to take what I do and say, and vice versa.
Yeah,
And that's what I mean about whether you are willing as a person to look at why that thing that someone else has done is affecting you. You know, there's lots of conversations going on in the world right now about all different people, you know, neurodivergent people, the LGBTQ plus community, trans people, all of that. There's lots of different conversations going on, gender, race, all of that. And it really is, if someone being that way that's different to you, why does it bother you? That's the question for me. Why does it matter to you? Why do you feel threatened by that person and the way they are? What is it in you that is doing that? Because it's got nothing to do with that.
So is there a big tie between sort of emotional intelligence and happiness then?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think so. But for me, it's really just understanding. True happiness for me is understanding that actually happy life is realizing that life is about all of it. We are here to experience stuff, and that stuff can't just be good. And also my interpretation of good and your interpretation of good might be completely different because of those filters. So it's not you know, we think as human beings that all we want to do is feel blissfully joyful and be in a state of peace, calm and love all the freaking time. I'm trying really hard not to swear. Sorry, I swear like a trooper normally. But we think that if we were just in peace, love and joy all the time, then everything would be dandy and we'd be happy. And actually, the truth is we'd be bored out of our brains because we're here to experience stuff. And that means experiencing challenges and difficulties. That's what helps us learn and grow and expand. Lots of people say, in my industry, in the personal development industry, they say, you know, the purpose of life is joy. No, it isn't. The purpose of life is expansion. That's what we're here to do. We're here to expand our experience of life, of ourselves, of the world. And the only way to do that is to face difficulties and challenges and work our way through them and come out the other side of them and learn from them. If we didn't have those things, there'd be no growth, there'd be no expansion.
Yeah, when you go through difficult times at the time, you know, it's hard, it's whatever, but 9 times out of 10, you generally look back and go, oh, everything happens for a reason. Yeah. As much as that was horrific, I wouldn't be where I am today. Does that make sense? And, you know, I always try and, you know, I could write a book on my challenges of life, but I always try and take the positivity out of it. Well, do you know what? Because that happens, then now I'm here, and this is why, and this has happened. So you can either dwell, don't get me wrong, we all are going to be sad, you're all going to be frustrated, and we go through the change curve all the time in our life, but the challenge is to make that curve as shallow as physically possible, so you'd only stay in that depression mood for a short period of time, and then you come out the other end and go, right, let's get cracking. And that's like a growth mindset. You know, people with a bit of a fixed mindset will struggle with that. So that's just how people handle life, or how they're wired, or whatever way you want to say it. But yeah, you know, nobody, you know, I've said to my staff loads of times, I didn't get where I am today because it was perfect. Everybody think I got here because I listened, I learned, and dusted myself off, and you try again, you know. And it's about resilience, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, totally. And the trick to making it through the things and coming out the other side with the learning, the trick is to allow yourself to experience it fully.
Yeah.
That includes experiencing the feelings fully, the emotions fully. And that's the bit that scares us as human beings, because the feelings that don't feel very good, so we don't want to feel them. So we try our best not to feel them.
Yeah.
So we try and move stuff on quickly, or bury it, or suppress it, or pretend it's or ignore it, or whatever, rather than actually just allowing ourselves to go through that thing, to experience it to its fullest extent. And then when you allow that to happen, I always say in talks I do about emotions, when my kids were little, there was a book, and there probably is still a book, called Going on a Bear Hunt. It was one of their absolute favorite books to read at bedtime. And for the benefit of anyone who doesn't know, it's about a group of kids going on a bear hunt, and they go through lots of challenges to get to find this bear. So they come up against a forest and a swamp and a storm and things like that. And every time they come up against a challenge, it says, we can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go round it, we have to go through it. And I only realized about 5 years ago that the book, having read it to my kids 1 billion times, is about emotions. And it didn't even occur to me when I was reading it to them as kids. But that's it. You can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go round it. You can try to, and you can try to for years, but at some point you're going to have to go through it, because it's the only way through. The only way through something is through it.
Yeah. And even when the bear comes knocking at your door, you can't run away and hide under the bed.
But you might not want to go through the bear you've eaten. I was at a networking event yesterday, and a lady presented about mediation, about working, within companies, about mediation before it gets too far gone for HR and things like that. And then somebody said that there's people going into schools who have put stuff in schools and teaching kids how to mediate and, have them challenging conversations in school, which I thought is really, really good. Especially, we've done loads, haven't we, Graham, about technology and this, that, it saves its place and it's great. But, kids are probably going to lose them soft social skills. So to have that in place in schools where they sit the children down and have a mediation process of, well, why are you upset? Why is this? Because that half the time, most things are resolved through a conversation. It's being brave enough to have the honesty within the conversation instead of going over it, under it, round it. So just go through it. I know I can be told to be like, I'm a bit direct in this, but you know what? You always know where you stand, and I'm honest, because at least then it's just sorted. And I'm not going to hold a grudge. I'm not going to think, but let's just voice what it is, sort out a solution and move on. That's because there's no point keeping, the problem there, is there? That's not going to do anything for anyone. Conflict can actually be a positive thing. It's not always negative.
And that's it. And it's in how you do it as well, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a mediator, but we talk a lot in the work that we do at the Happiness Club. We talk a lot about assumptions, because we make assumptions all the time, and some of them are necessary to get things done and move things forward. But a lot of the assumptions we make are entirely unnecessary. Again, they're based on our own filters and perceptions and beliefs about life, the universe, and everything. And we project those out onto other people. We assume that that person who is being quiet with us is in a mood with us, or is, rude, or when actually that person might have something completely different going on in their life and just not have the headspace to deal with whatever's in front of them. But we make an assumption based on our own beliefs and then respond accordingly without having, as you say, that really important middle piece of communication. Where we actually say, are you being a bit funny? Are you upset? Have I done something? Oh no, you haven't done anything. That's what it takes. Or have I done something? Yes, actually, you did this thing and it's really upset me. Okay, well, let's have a conversation about that then. But we just make the assumption and respond accordingly. And that's where real conflict really, starts to kick off. Yeah. Well,
you bury it under the carpet, and then it's not a little pebble, is it? It's a mountain then, and you don't even know where to begin. And you've this is the reason why I got divorced, to be fair. It got to the point where there was that lack of communication. It was like, what are you even annoyed at? And, just buried their heads in the sand constantly. And it was like, I don't even know where to begin, because, you just haven't said what was right, what was wrong, everything can be fixed if you're brave enough to speak.
Totally. And again, that communication piece then leads into that defense. If you try and have that conversation with someone and they are defensive because They want to be right, because their need to be right is huge, and so their immediate, or they're used to being under attack, especially if you come from a traumatic, so this was absolutely me, you come from a traumatic childhood, everything that anybody else says, your nervous system immediately goes, oh, we're under attack, quick, defend, right?
Yeah.
So you completely block that opportunity for communication, proper, true communication, because you're so scared of getting hurt and you're so intent on protecting yourself that you can't hear the other person quite reasonably say, actually, do you know what, when this happens, could we try XYZ?
Yeah.
Because you're in that space again, it's all the filters and perception thing, isn't it? So
you must have read my mind. I've actually just designed some t-shirts that say assumptions kill communication. Yeah, really, because it's all around the comms piece that I've been doing within companies. Even in there, one of the things that I talk with organizations about is that you don't have conversations about how you communicate with people, right? That's one of the things we should start with, right? This is me.
Yeah, to be fair to McDonald's, we had training sessions on that, Graham, and
yeah.
I know I always go back to that, but there's a reason they're successful, because we would be taught how to do that, and you'd be taught about empathic listening and all that type of stuff that, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, should we say? People who can truly listen are the best, probably most successful people. I know I sometimes need to learn that a lot more. I can be just as bad, but the more you slow down and you listen and you understand, so you listen to understand, but we're so eager to answer that we don't actually listen and we miss what's been said. So yeah, you're bob on with that, Graham. People do need to actually understand how to communicate effectively.
Well, it's quite interesting. I was invited into a call with a company that won an inclusion award last year, and they sent me a Teams invite. And I'm always having a go at people with Teams invites as well, because when I don't use Microsoft products and I'm on a Mac, right, they don't work with it anyway. But it was even worse than that. They had their Teams set up so that it would only recognize certain people with certain Teams accounts as well. So other than that, it said like security block, and it just wouldn't even let you into it at all. And I said, well, for a company that preaches inclusion, boom, there you go, right from the start. That's not very inclusive, is it? Because you just need to understand, if you're going to put gates at the door, left, right, and center, who are you shutting out? Are you communicating any of this stuff that's what we've got in place with anybody? Oh no. It's like we just assume, there's the word, we just assume that people can use it. But yeah, let's talk about this, because I think this is an interesting thing around happiness as well. Diane, when were the happiest days of your life? Is it now, or was it when you were a kid? Or
I would actually say right now is the happiest I've ever been in my life, and I've gone through some trauma, let's be honest. But yeah, this year definitely, like, I'll be a bit philosophical now, but I feel like last year was the shredding of the snake, getting rid of it, like, and this year is the horsepower. So yeah, I definitely feel like right now, emotionally, personally, professionally, I'm in the best place I've ever been in my whole entire life. Yeah,
I love that. But you know what, Jo, this is the honest truth as well. When I speak to a lot of people online, a lot of people live with what we call rose-tinted glasses, and they see that, everything was better then. That's one of the reasons why a lot of memes work, a lot of posts work, if they're talking about, like, do you remember when, how old, tell me how old you are by this, and people gush onto those posts, etc., because they're like, oh yeah, no, I'm even older than that, I remember when. But living in the past, quoting Jethro Tull song, which is brilliant, isn't particularly very good for us, is it?
So the thing is, even when you are living in the past, you're in the present moment. So when you are reflecting on that past, you're here now, you're not in that past. So you're still bringing, if it was a hard past, you're bringing that hardness, that difficulty into the now where it doesn't belong, because it's done, it's happened. And if you're reflecting on the joyful stuff, then yes, okay, you're bringing joy into the now, awesome, but still that's done, it's gone, it's happened, it's part.
It's not happening now. No.
And if it's joyful, we find it hard to let go of because it was joyful and we want to keep hold of that joy, maybe because the present moment really isn't that joyful for us right now. And if it's hard stuff, we find it hard to let go of because we kind of allow that to define who we are and how we behave. And we can absolutely use it as an excuse for who we are and how we behave right now, instead of doing what I said before of actually looking at ourselves and going, why is this bothering me? Why do I care?
Yeah.
I'm with you, Diane. Right now, in this moment, is the happiest I've ever been in my life too. But part of the reason for that is because I've worked very hard over the last however many years to root myself in the present moment more and more and more with every day. I'm a mindfulness practitioner. It's part and parcel of what I do. But for me, it's an ongoing process, right? So tomorrow will be the happiest I've ever been, even if I'm crying my eyes out, right? Because that's what I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah.
It's whatever you are experiencing is in the present moment, whether it's because you're thinking of the past or not. Am I making sense? That's not necessarily.
Yeah, no, you are making sense. I think it's very easy for us to go looking at the past with one set of eyes or another, and as you say, either pulling the bad stuff in or pulling what we thought was amazing about the past into now, and then losing all sense of childlikeness in the now, and with that things like curiosity, etc. I mean, taking what may seem like a very small thing, but I do a lot of stuff around music, and you talk about music, and you'll get a whole brigade of people go, "Oh, there's no good music now," etc. It's so rubbish, because what those people are doing is they're just going, like, they're stuck there at a time when music may have been played a more important part of their lives. We can all remember the song lyrics to things when we were like 16, 17, because we played those things to death and we lived by them. We don't necessarily have the same time for music when you get older, because you've got other distractions in your life. But it's a shame in a way that people lose that curiosity and they lose that childlike playfulness, because I think that's part of finding happiness as well, which is to keep that kind of open.
Yeah, to keep that sense of awe and wonder. And we get so bogged down, and bless our cottons, we get so bogged down with the everydayness of everyday life and the things we have to do and the places we have to go and the jobs we have to get done and that we forget to look around and see the absolute beauty that is all around us all the time, that we just walk past with blinkers on. I've got a beautiful orchid in my window over there that a friend of mine gave me about 2 years ago, and it's just started flowering again. And I was pulling my blinds the other evening, and I was right by it in my face. I was like, oh my God, you're beautiful. And I really hadn't paid it attention for ages. And I got my phone and I took a photo, and my partner came in the room and said, what are you doing? Why are you taking a photo of the flower that's in you? It's like, because it's just really hit me how gorgeous that is. And I really want to capture it. Right. But we don't walk through life with that attitude very often anymore. Right. Which kids do all the time. They think everything's amazing and wow, because it is, like, everything's the first time they've tried something or seen something. So it's like, whoa, that's amazing. How does that happen? But we lose that as grown-ups because we get so bogged down. I
think that, so I had a conversation with someone about this particular thing yesterday as well, who does a lot around communication. That's his role, and he said it's because we put a damper on the kids when they're trying to be creative, like we say, oh, you can't say that, or you can't do that, or you can't be like that, you know, because society says you can't. So why can't you? Like, I've always encouraged my son's got Asperger's. I've always encouraged him to be different, and I've always said never ever excuse yourself for being you. Like, you know, the world works because of people are on the spectrum or whatever it may be, but the world works because everybody's their authentically self. So why do we put a lid on that creativity or that, you know, do you understand what I mean? Like we stop people being able to be free because we go, oh, you can't be like that, you can't do that, or you can't this, you can't, like, there can be too many rules sometimes, can't there?
Yeah, I agree totally, and that's you know, I come at that from the angle of emotions, you know, and again, you watch a kid, they will have and I've got two beautiful daughters who are 18 and 16 now. When they were little, when they were toddlers, they would literally be having a blinking screaming tantrum 1 minute, and then the next second they're laughing and running around with absolute joy, literally.
Yeah, me and my sister were like that.
Right. And as an adult, you're like, oh my word, what just happened? But to the child, it's like they're literally feeling their feelings truly and deeply in every single moment. I'm devastated by the fact that I can't have crisps for breakfast, so I'm going to, you know, express that. And now I'm overjoyed because I've got some, you know, I've got, I don't know, a dog to play with or whatever. But they literally switch between, and that for me is truly allowing yourself to feel your emotions. And yet we, like you say, we knock it out of children. And the reason we do it, all of the creativity, the emotions, all of it, is because we have been conditioned that way.
Yeah.
We've had it knocked out of us. And the reason that we've had it knocked out of us is because we have to fit into the family norms, the community norms, the society norms, so that life is easier for for ourselves, basically, for us.
Yeah.
Right? You want your child to behave so that, you know, you want your child to behave in the supermarket so that the other people in the supermarket don't stare at you like you're a bad mum, right? That's why you don't want a kid to have a strop in the middle of the aisle. So you tell your child off for crying or getting angry or throwing things or having a tantrum, and you knock it out of them so that they behave the way you want them to behave, so life is easier for you. And we've all had the exact same thing done to us.
Yeah, well, I seen a video with a dad with his little boy, and he must have been 18 months, and he was crying, and the dad was just so calm, and he was like, do you miss mummy? And he was like, yeah, and he was like, yeah. He said, I miss mummy too. And he's like, yeah. And then, like, he's like, do you want to cuddle? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, I've got you. And then he goes, right, so should we get in the bath now? And he, yeah. And he goes, but we still miss mummy. I miss mummy too. And he's like, yeah. And it was just so cute to, like, just, you know, like some parents would shout when they go, no, well, she's in work, there's nothing you can do, get in the bath, you know, and be erratic. But because he was so calm and he just had hold of him and he just, like, let him be upset, like, he just felt safe then. And that's all everything is you should be able to feel safe to share your own emotions and your own feelings. And if you don't, that's why then things can escalate or whatever, you know.
Exactly. And it starts at such a young age. I tell a story of going over to my doctor's surgery for an appointment. This is donkeys ago. And I was sat waiting to see the doctor, and this lovely young woman came in with a baby in a pram, tiny, weeny little baby. And I'm at the age now where I don't want any more children, thank you very much. But I get babies. Oh, they're so cute. So I was just cooing over this baby, and it started crying. And her instant reaction was to pick the baby up, cuddle it, obviously, but she was going, shh, 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 shh. And I wanted, with every fibre of my being, I wanted to say to her, don't shush it. Because that's when it starts, right? Let it, it's upset about something. Find out what that is and help it, absolutely. But don't shush it. Don't tell it to stop crying, because that it's just built into us from such a young age that crying's bad, getting angry's bad. They're all just expressions of emotion. And if we quash that, then we grow up to be adults who can't express our emotions, who suppress them, who ignore them, who try and run away from them, who then do all the defensive, need to be right, blah, 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 all of that stuff.
But that
Yeah.
comes from other people. That's why that behaviour is there, isn't it? It comes from other people's reactions to things, which then causes us to then go, well, I better react. I mean, I was in supermarket the other day, and then this guy that was coming through the tills, there's a child crying, whatever, and he was like shouting at the dad to tell the kid off. You know, it comes from that. It comes from other people going, that's not great behaviour. What are you doing about it as a parent? You know.
Yeah.
So again, it's, you know, if we're really selfishly looking at the world, I don't think we can find true happiness. I think if we are expecting everybody else to jump to our agenda, I don't think we can be happy.
No, and again, it's about looking at why we expect everyone else to jump to our tune, right? That's not the right analogy, but you know what I mean. Right? That's why do you want that? Why does it matter? Why is it so important? I used to be and I'm recovering still. I used to be the world's biggest control freak, right? But I was a control freak because I felt completely out of control.
Out of control, yeah.
I didn't have any control over my own life. And so outside of myself, I had to be in control of absolutely everything. And I needed everybody to do things my way. And I didn't trust them to do things my way because I was a complete control freak. So I had to double check that everyone had done everything my way. Right? It just ran out of me. And that was one of the biggest things that having kids gave me, because it sent me back to therapy, was that starting of the process to release that need to be in control, because the need to be in control is because I felt deeply out of control, which makes you feel unsafe because you have no idea what's going to happen because you can't control it. And again, one of my catchphrases I say all the time is, you know, we're all scared witless of the unknown, right? We want to be in control because we don't know what's going to happen next. But here's the thing. You absolutely never know what's going to happen next. Ever, ever, ever. From 1 minute to the next. You can plan and schedule and control to your heart's content, and you still have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next. And the brilliant thing is that you've made it through every single day not really knowing what's going to happen next. Which means you absolutely make it through every single day.
You know, this whole conversation, I don't know why, but probably that kind of losing control and allowing that to happen and sort of sitting in that experience of not having control, and also that kind of letting go of, you know, structure in life to some extent, and enabling ourselves to just understand that in this moment I'm happy. It just reminded me of, who has either of you two seen the film The Salt Path, which is obviously about, what a great film.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
This couple that, you know, lose everything, but gain everything from losing their house and losing their business, etc. And go walking and going along the salt path around the southwest coast, etc. But, you know, and the best bit in that film for me is the bit where they kind of stop walking, kind of go back to life for a bit, and then realize they need to get walking again because, you know, within that there's the lack of tie to anything, there's the lack of responsibility to anything. You know, it's difficult, isn't it, for people out there, because we do have responsibilities, we do have you know, we do have to kind of answer to what we've laid down, we do have to work with other people, etc. But to some extent, we've got to find a way to kind of let go of some of it as well, because otherwise we can't be happy.
Exactly. And for me, the only way to do that is that self-exploration, is but being gentle with yourself while you're doing it, right? Allowing yourself the grace to be an imperfect human being, because I don't think there is a perfect human being. We all have. And I think you alluded to this before, Diane, right? We all have qualities that we like about ourselves, and we all have qualities that we wish we didn't have. But we've
100%.
Right? You've all got them. So it's allowing yourself to. I wrote daily strategy for the Happiness Club members a couple of days ago, in which I said my view on, I'm a therapist, my view on therapy and the type of work that I do has changed and evolved so much in the 15 years. Things I believed 15 years ago when I first qualified, I no longer adhere to and I don't believe, because I've changed and evolved as I've done the work. And that's okay. It's okay that I believed those things 15 years ago, and it's okay that I don't believe them now, because that's, again, the expansion thing. That's what we're here to do. We're here to grow and learn and expand our understanding and be gentle with ourselves while we're doing it. That's what happiness is for me.
I think you also have to be very self-aware. I know when I always interview people, I ask people what their strengths are. And the minute I ask them what their opportunities are, a lot of people look at you like a rabbit in headlights. And I'm like, well, if you don't know what you're not good at, like, you know, that's going to be a difficult conversation when, you know, that comes round. Like, you know, for instance, honesty for me is a strength, but it's also a weakness, because it's when you use your honesty. So knowing that and being aware of that, of when to hold back, when not to say things, when, you know, is just as important as being totally transparent, you know. So you have to have self-awareness, I think, you know, for you to be entirely happy. I believe, you know, I've done a lot of that myself, you know, Jo, like whatever I've gone through, but I've also understood why, and I've understood the part I played in them things, not just play the victim. Does that make sense? You know, things may not have gone your way, but I still had a part to play in that, you know, and you've got to take that accountability too.
100%. And I think that's a massive part of it, is personal responsibility. And I think that's what a lot of people shy away from. And that's really beautiful example, that strengths and weaknesses question, because people they don't want to admit to, and I know I didn't when I was in the world of employment, but you don't want to admit to having a weakness, because then people might think badly of you. But we all have them. We all have things that we're rubbish at, or that we're not good with, or so it's okay to admit to, do you know what, I'm not, I was speaking at a conference tomorrow, and they told me yesterday that I will need to do something technical. I am not a technical person. And however many years ago, I'd have just gone, okay, that's fine. Yes, that's fine. And yesterday I went, yeah, I can't do tech. You're going to have someone there for me, because there's no way that's going to work. I will mess it up.
And that's, you know, there's no wrong thing in letting your vulnerability out. I think people think that if you tell somebody what you're not so good at, they're going to use it against you, so they're scared to do that. Whereas as a leader, you need to know that, because how do I develop my employees? How do I develop them to be better human beings? That's what you need to do. Is so, we're all great at them stuff, and you want to get even better at some of the stuff you're good at, but for you to become the best version of yourself is to improve what you're not so good at, you know, and you've got to have that awareness to do that and put things in process to achieve that, you know. Otherwise you're not going to get to where you want to get to, whatever that is, and that might be your happiness of succeeding to X place, you know. I
think you're absolutely right, but I also think that companies need to bring it into their narrative more, because otherwise people are going to just go with what they're good at and not what they're bad at. Because, you know, where does that come from? That comes from people having gone to interview experiences or whatever, where nobody says, you know, we really need to know what you're good at and what you're bad at, and it's okay to say what you're bad at, right? That has to be a narrative as well that companies need to lead with, and companies need to, and actually companies need to believe it, not just say it as well. And the reason I say that is because the amount of times that I've seen companies, they employ someone, they might say that in the interview, but then when it comes to it, they go, well, no, you're meant to be on this team doing this. Everybody in this team needs to be good at finances. Well, I told you at interview I wasn't good at finances. Right? No, your job title means you should be good at finance. That's, you know, if you're going to do it, you got to do it all the way through. Otherwise, you know, we're not building this circle of trust here that people can come into, and so they won't do it. Jo, we're getting towards the end of time. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. What if people want to share in a little bit more happiness? The Happiness Club. How do people go about joining that?
So the best way to find out more about the Happiness Club is just to go to our website, which is thehappinessclub.co.uk. All the information about the membership and the other work that we do is all on there.
Simple,
straightforward,
as the meerkats would say. There we go. Other rodents are available. Thanks, Jo. Thanks for making us all a little bit happier this morning. Thank you for doing that. Folks, if anything's been of interest in this conversation, and I'm sure it has, please do reach out and talk to Jo on social media, or go and check on the website and find out a little bit more. We will be back soon with more conversations with more business owners. But until then, from Diane, Jo, and myself, thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Thanks, Jo.